You may have heard the price of crude oil has gone up or down, or is just generally higher than it used to be. You may know that gas prices at the pump are affected by the price of crude oil, but what exactly is crude oil, and why is it so valuable? To answer that question, we have to go back to basics. What is crude oil? Basically, it's a liquid mixture of hydrocarbons that's been extracted from the earth. These hydrocarbons are made up of hydrogen and carbon atoms. And depending on the exact combination of elements and how they're structured, crude oil can have a wide variety of uses. Crude oil isn't particularly useful in its raw form. But through a process called refining, it can be separated into different components, which are then used to make all kinds of products. Those products include gasoline and other fuels, kerosene, diesel, heating oil, liquefied petroleum gas, asphalt, natural gas, plastics, fertilizer, and even pesticides. In other words, pretty much anything synthetic made from hydrocarbons is either directly or indirectly made from crude oil. That explains why we use so much of it. In 2018, the United States produced over 13 billion barrels of crude oil. 1 barrel is equal to 42 US gallons, or 159 liters. And that was enough to fill almost 65 million-gallon tanks. Just to put that into perspective, that's a lot of oil. Not all crude oil is the same. Different types of crude oil have different properties based on the types of hydrocarbons they contain. For example, some have more sulfur, which makes them worse for the environment to burn. Some are thicker, which means they don't flow easily and may require more processing. And some contain more of the lighter components, like methane, which tends to evaporate quickly. Because of these differences, crude oils are categorized as sweet or sour and heavy or light. Sweet refers to the amount of sulfur. Sour crude oil contains more sulfur and is worse for the environment. Light refers to the average molecular weight of the hydrocarbons in the oil. Heavy crude has a higher molecular weight and is more difficult to refine. There are also different measures of quality that help categorize crude oil. The most common measure is called API gravity, which is a number between 0 and 100 that predicts how dense the oil is. The higher the API gravity, the lower the density and the higher quality the oil. Another measure of quality is called the sulfur content. This refers to the percentage of sulfur in the crude oil. The lower the sulfur content, the higher the quality. Because burning oil with high sulfur content releases more sulfur dioxide, which is a major air pollutant. So now that we know what it is and how it's categorized, let's talk about why crude oil is so valuable. First off, it's non-renewable. So that means once it's burned, it cannot be replaced. The world consumes billions of barrels of it every year. So the supply of crude oil is limited. It takes millions of years to form the deposits of crude oil that we use today. And even though we consume enormous amounts of it, we can only replace a tiny fraction of it each year. According to the U.S. Energy Information Administration, in 2018, the United States produced 13 billion barrels of crude oil, but consumed 19 billion barrels. That means we only replaced about 70% of what we use. And on top of that, it's incredibly difficult to get to. We can't just dig it out of the ground. Instead, we have to drill miles down into the earth, and then either drill horizontally to reach the oil, or pump it out using pressurized water. Once we've extracted the oil, we have to transport it somewhere else to be refined. If it's not near a refinery, it has to be transported by pipeline, truck, train, or boat. And finally, the process of refining crude oil is complex and expensive. It involves separating the oil into different components, which can be difficult because many of them have similar boiling points. It also requires a huge investment up front to build the infrastructure to refine the oil. Once refined, the products need to be transported to wherever they'll be used, which again takes a lot of money and resources. All those factors contribute to the value of crude oil, because it's limited, difficult to extract, and costly to refine. We're running out of easy-to-access crude oil. The result? The price keeps going up. Now, there are plenty of other factors that affect the price of crude oil, including international conflicts, economic sanctions, natural disasters, and global demand. But no matter what, the price will always be higher than it used to be, because we're reusing up our reserves faster than they were being replenished. I hope that cleared up some of the confusion around this important commodity. Thanks for watching.